In the south of Denmark, a mega project is underway to build a tunnel under the Baltic, linking the country.
Infrastructure Maniac. That's what they're calling China, and it's well deserved. From record-breaking bridges to continent-spanning railways, Beijing views infrastructure not as concrete alone, but as the framework of economic power and social cohesion. Dams, bridges, and China's new undersea tunnel projects are rather extreme. In fact, so much so that Americans can't even imagine it.
China, you go there now, roads, bridges, schools, you never saw anything like it. They have bridges that make the George Washington Bridge look like small potatoes, and they're all over the place.
Let's start unpacking. Shihumen Bridge and other island-to-mainland bridge networks. Stretching across the East China Sea, the Shihumen Bridge is the centerpiece of a vast network of sea-crossing links that have transformed the Zhoushan archipelago from an isolated island group into an integrated economic powerhouse. Completed in December 2009, after 5 years of construction, the suspension bridge measures 5.3 kilometers in total length and boasts a 1,650-meter main span, which made it the longest suspension span in China and the second longest in the world at the time of its opening. Located in Zhejiang province, about 30 kilometers southeast of the port city of Ningbo, the bridge carries a 6-lane expressway between Jintang and Shizi Islands, drastically reducing the need for ferries and cutting travel times for residents, cargo trucks, and tourists. Its 211-meter steel towers, aerodynamic box girder, and wind-resistant design allow it to withstand the region's frequent typhoons. But that's not all. The Shihumen Bridge is only one element of an ambitious series of projects collectively known as the Zhoushan Island-Mainland Link Project, a multi-phase effort launched by the Zhejiang provincial government in the late 1990s to physically connect dozens of islands to the mainland. Before these projects, the Zhoushan Islands, China's largest offshore island group with a land area of roughly 1,400 square kilometers, relied almost entirely on slow ferries for the movement of people and goods. Phase 1 began with the completion of the Chenggang Bridge in 1999. Over the following years, engineers added the Shangjiaomen Bridge, opened in 2006 with a 1,650-meter cable-stayed design, and the Taoyaomen Bridge, a 1,095-meter suspension bridge completed in 2005. These crossings connected key islands such as Zhoushan, Fuqi, and Chezi in a growing chain. The Jintang Bridge, which opened alongside Shihumen in 2009, provided the essential final link to the mainland by spanning 18.5 kilometers across open sea and tidal flats between Jintang Island and Ningbo's Zhenhai district. When combined with the Shihumen, Shangjiaomen, Taoyaomen, and Chenggang bridges, this network created an unbroken 50-kilometer expressway corridor that today carries National Highway G9211 from the Zhejiang mainland deep into the island cluster. Traffic data from provincial authorities show that vehicle counts on these bridges have increased by double digits annually since their opening, with peak flows exceeding 40,000 vehicles per day during the busy summer fishing season and the Golden Week holiday period. Supplementary projects soon followed to reinforce the network. The Yushan Bridge, opened in 2012, links Yushan Island to the growing petrochemical complexes of Zhoushan. The Zhoushan-Daishan Bridge, completed in 2014, spans 10 kilometers to connect Daishan Island, enabling heavy cargo movements to the northern islands. Farther afield, the 32.5-kilometer Donghai Bridge, completed in 2005 and one of the world's longest cross-sea bridges, connects Shanghai to the offshore Yangshan deepwater port. The Liuheng Highway Bridge, still under construction with a targeted completion date later this decade, will extend the chain to Liuheng Island. The economic impact of this island-to-mainland bridge system is profound. Zhoushan now hosts the world's busiest cargo port by annual tonnage, surpassing even Shanghai in bulk cargo throughput. In 2023, the port of Zhoushan reported more than 1.3 billion metric tons of cargo handled, a figure that would have been impossible without direct highway connections for the rapid movement of goods between port facilities and inland markets. The bridges have also underpinned the growth of China's largest offshore petrochemical base, the Zhejiang Petrochemical Complex on Yushan Island, which began operations in 2020 with a refining capacity exceeding 40 million tons per year. This facility alone depends on continuous flows of construction materials, crude oil, and refined products that move by road and pipeline across the bridge network. Fishing, the traditional livelihood of Zhoushan's inhabitants, has likewise benefited. The region remains China's largest ocean fishery, landing more than 1.5 million tons of seafood annually. The bridges have enabled faster transport of fresh catches to cold chain logistics hubs in Ningbo and Shanghai, raising prices for fishermen and expanding export potential. Tourism has also surged, with visitor numbers to the scenic Putuo mountain and surrounding islands climbing above 40 million annually before the pandemic. But wait, there's more from where that came. South-to-north water diversion, conceived as early as 1952 by Chairman Mao Zedong, who remarked that the South has plenty of water and the North lacks it. The South-to-North Water Diversion Project became a national priority in the late 20th century as northern provinces such as Beijing, Tianjin, Hebei, Henan, and Shandong faced chronic shortages. After decades of feasibility studies and pilot works, the State Council formally approved the undertaking in 2002, setting in motion 3 colossal routes: Eastern, Central, and Western. Together, they span more than 4,300 kilometers of canals, tunnels, and pumping stations. The Eastern route follows the ancient Grand Canal, the world's longest man-made waterway, beginning at the lower Yangtze River near Yangzhou in Jiangsu Province and running northward through Shandong to Tianjin. Construction began in 2002, and the first stage became operational in 2013. This route relies heavily on a series of more than 20 pumping stations to lift water across multiple elevations, and it delivers an annual transfer capacity of about 8.8 billion cubic meters. It primarily serves industrial hubs and agricultural zones in Jiangsu, Anhui, and Shandong. The central route's headwaters lie in the Danjiangkou Reservoir on the Han River, a tributary of the Yangtze in Hubei Province. From there, a gravity-fed canal stretches roughly 1,432 kilometers through Henan and Hebei before reaching Beijing and Tianjin. Engineers enlarged the Danjiangkou Dam between 2005 and 2013, raising its crest from 162 to 176.6 meters to expand storage capacity to 29 billion cubic meters. When the first stage opened in December 2014, it immediately began supplying around 1 billion cubic meters of water per year to the capital. By 2023, cumulative deliveries along the central route exceeded 60 billion cubic meters. The western route remains in the planning stage and is the most technically challenging. It envisions diverting water from the upper Yangtze tributaries on the eastern edge of the Tibetan Plateau through tunnels beneath the Bayan Ha Mountains into the Yellow River headwaters. Proposed tunnels would exceed 300 kilometers in total length at altitudes above 4,000 meters, and concerns about seismic risk, ecological disruption, and cost, estimated at over 500 billion yuan, have delayed construction. The project has delivered notable ecological benefits to receiving regions. groundwater tables in parts of Beijing and Hebei have risen by an average of 1 to 2 meters since 2015, reversing decades of decline that had caused land subsidence. Economically, the diversion has underpinned northern China's urban and industrial expansion. Beijing alone draws over 70% of its municipal water from the central route during dry years, ensuring a reliable supply for a population of more than 21 million. Tianjin and key agricultural areas of the North China Plain benefit similarly, stabilizing food production and supporting heavy industry. The eastern route's integration with shipping lanes of the Grand Canal also enhances freight transport and irrigation efficiency across eastern provinces. While questions remain about long-term ecological impacts and the viability of the western route, the operational sections already demonstrate a capacity to redistribute the nation's hydrological wealth. Impressive, right? Well, let's move on. Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge Tunnel. This is the world's longest sea-crossing system, a 55-kilometer network of bridges, artificial islands, and an immersed tube tunnel linking Hong Kong on China's eastern Pearl River Delta with the mainland city of Zhuhai and the Macau Special Administrative Region. Designed to integrate the Greater Bay Area's economies and reduce travel times across this busy estuary, the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge Tunnel was first proposed in the 1980s, but gained formal approval in 2003 after the central government endorsed a cross-boundary agreement among Guangdong Province, the Hong Kong SAR, and the Macau SAR. Construction began in December 2009, and the bridge opened to traffic on 24th of October 2018, after nearly a decade of engineering that involved more than 400 design patents, a peak workforce of over 14 million, and a total investment exceeding 120 billion yuan, or about $17 billion. The centerpiece of the system is its 6.7-kilometer immersed tube tunnel, which allows uninterrupted shipping lanes for the thousands of cargo vessels entering the Pearl River every day. Instead of a bored or drilled tunnel, engineers opted for the immersed tube technique. Prefabricated steel and concrete tunnel segments were built in a purpose-built dry dock in Zhuhai's Gishan Island Yard, each measuring roughly 180 meters in length, 38 meters in width, 11 meters in height, and weighing around 76,000 metric tons. 33 of these giant sections were produced under factory conditions to ensure precision and durability, each lined with waterproof membranes and equipped with ballast tanks to control buoyancy. The installation process required dredging a trench across the seabed between two artificial islands, then floating each sealed segment to its designated location. Heavy tugboats and GPS-guided positioning systems maneuvered the sections, which were gradually submerged by controlled flooding of ballast tanks until they rested on a prepared gravel bed. Divers and remotely operated vehicles performed meticulous inspections as hydraulic jacks and locking systems aligned each unit with millimeter accuracy. Once two segments were joined, the internal bulkheads separating them were removed, allowing the 6.7-kilometer undersea passage to become a continuous roadway. Flanking the tunnel are two man-made islands, east and west artificial islands, constructed from dredged sand contained by circular seawalls. Each island covers roughly 150,000 square meters and anchors the transition from bridge to tunnel. The broader bridge system includes a 22.9-kilometer main bridge of 3 cable-stayed spans, with the longest individual span stretching 458 meters. The entire route, when combined with connecting viaducts and approach roads, reduces driving time between Hong Kong International Airport and Zhuhai from about 4 hours by ferry and road to roughly 45 minutes, a major gain for trade and tourism in the Pearl River Delta. But that's not all. The immersed tube tunnel and bridge deck were designed to withstand magnitude 8 earthquakes, super typhoon winds of up to 340 kilometers per hour, and accidental ship collisions. Structural steel used in the main bridge alone weighed more than 400,000 metric tons. Engineers also integrated 400 expansion joints to cope with thermal movement and special corrosion-resistant materials to endure decades of saltwater exposure. Maintenance facilities on the artificial islands house monitoring systems that track structural stress, water leakage, and traffic loads in real time. The economic rationale for the HZMB is clear in post-opening metrics. The bridge is a key component of the Greater Bay Area Development Strategy, which envisions a single economic zone of roughly 86 million people encompassing Hong Kong, Macau, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and surrounding cities with a combined GDP exceeding $1.9 trillion. Financing combined state investment and bank loans, while construction drew on expertise from the China Communications Construction Company and international consultants for immersed tube technology. The project set new records for precision. The final tunnel connection achieved alignment with an error margin of less than 5 millimeters across a structure more than 6 kilometers long. Moving on, Nansha Islands Land Reclamation. Known internationally as the Spratly Islands, the Nansha Islands are a scattered archipelago of more than 100 small reefs, shoals, and islets spread across the southern South China Sea. They cover roughly 425,000 square kilometers of sea area, but less than 5 square kilometers of naturally occurring land. Since 2013, the People's Republic of China has undertaken the world's largest and most rapid program of maritime land reclamation here, transforming submerged features into permanent human-made islands. Chinese officials describe the effort as a miracle of nature's craftsmanship, while neighboring countries view it as a geopolitical and environmental flashpoint. The work has focused on 7 principal reefs: Fiery Cross, Subi, Mischief, Gavin, Johnson South, Hughes, and Quarteron. Engineering began in earnest after President Xi Jinping assumed office in 2013, with the most intensive period of construction occurring from late 2013 through 2016. Chinese state-owned enterprises such as China Communications Construction Company and its subsidiary China Harbour Engineering Company directed the operations. Using a fleet of cutter suction dredgers, including some of the largest in the world, such as the Tianjinghao and Tiankunhao, workers excavated sand and coral from surrounding lagoons and seabeds. They pumped this slurry onto shallow reefs to build up new terrain, often working around the clock. By the middle of 2015, satellite imagery analyzed by the US Department of Defense and the Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative confirmed that more than 12.8 square kilometers of new land had been created. Fiery Cross Reef became the centerpiece of the program. Before reclamation, it consisted of a narrow ring of coral barely visible at high tide. By 2016, China had expanded it to roughly 2.8 square kilometers and constructed a 3,000-meter runway capable of handling heavy transport aircraft and military jets, such as the H-6 bomber and J-11 fighter. Subi Reef, enlarged to around 4 square kilometers, hosts another 3,000-meter airstrip and a deep water harbor able to berth large naval vessels. Mischief Reef, now over 5 square kilometers, contains extensive port facilities and radar installations. The other 4 reefs, Gavin, Johnson South, Hughes, and Quarteron, support helipads, radar arrays, lighthouses, and barracks. According to Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs statements, these projects also included civilian infrastructure such as desalination plants, solar power arrays, hospitals, and weather stations. Beijing argued that these facilities would improve maritime safety and provide services for fishing vessels and passing ships. However, the Philippines brought a case against China to the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague, challenging Beijing's expansive 9-dash line, claim that encompasses nearly 90% of the South China Sea. On 12th of July 2016, the tribunal ruled that China's historical rights claim lacked legal basis and that features like Mischief Reef are legally low-tide elevations, which cannot generate exclusive economic zones. China rejected the ruling. By 2020, satellite assessments indicated that the total area of Chinese-built land in the Nansha Islands exceeded 13 square kilometers, making it the largest island-building campaign in modern history. China has since fortified the installations with anti-ship and surface-to-air missile systems, advanced radar, and hardened shelters, creating what US Indo-Pacific Command has called a strategic triangle. But that's not all. There's more from where that came. Jintang Undersea Tunnel. China's Jintang Undersea Tunnel is the world's longest undersea high-speed rail tunnel and a centerpiece of the Ningbo-Jiaoshan Intercity Railway. Stretching 16.18 kilometers beneath the East China Sea, it will link the Zhejiang coast city of Ningbo with Jintang Island in the Jiaoshan archipelago, home to the world's busiest cargo port. Construction began in November 2021 after a decade of feasibility and environmental studies and is scheduled for completion around 2027. The twin single-track bores, each 14.5 meters in diameter, are designed for trains traveling up to 250 kilometers per hour, cutting the current multi-hour ferry journey to less than 30 minutes. The tunnel traverses the busy Jintang Channel, a shipping lane serving a port that can handle over 1.3 billion metric tons of cargo. Engineers identified 28 geological transitions ranging from granite to silt, making it more complex than Japan's Seikan or the Channel Tunnel. At its deepest point, the crown lies 78 meters below sea level. Excavation uses dual-shield tunnel boring machines over 15 meters wide and weighing about 4,000 tons. These allow simultaneous digging and lining with precast concrete, advancing up to 15 meters per day. Precision guidance relies on China's Beidou satellite network, and a shedding-the-shell method will dismantle the massive machines underground once tunneling finishes. Safety measures include cross passages every 250 meters. Then there are high-capacity ventilation shafts. Expected to carry over 20 million passengers annually, the project will strengthen Jiaoshan's shipping, petrochemical, and tourism industries. But wait, that's not all. Three Gorges Dam. The Three Gorges Dam on the Yangtze River in Hubei province is the largest hydroelectric project ever built. Spanning 2,335 meters and rising 185 meters above sea level, it forms a reservoir about 600 kilometers long that covers 1,084 square kilometers through the famous Three Gorges, Kutang, Wu, and Xiling. Although feasibility studies began in the 1950s, China's National People's Congress approved the plan only in April 1992. Construction started on the 14th of December 1994. The main structure was finished by the 20th of May 2006, and the final generator came online in July 2012. With an installed capacity of 22,500 megawatts from 32 main turbines of 700 megawatts each, plus two 50-megawatt house units, the dam consistently leads the world in hydroelectric output. In 2020, it generated a record 111.8 terawatt-hours, surpassing Brazil and Paraguay's Itaipu Dam. Electricity travels via ultra-high voltage transmission lines to major industrial and population centers, including Shanghai, Jiangsu, and Guangdong, powering millions of homes and supporting China's growing economy. Flood control was a primary motivation. The Yangtze's history of devastating floods, most notably in 1931, when an estimated 2 million people died, prompted the design of a reservoir able to hold 39.3 billion cubic meters of water, with 22.15 billion cubic meters reserved for flood management. By lowering water levels ahead of the monsoon, the dam absorbs peak flows and releases water gradually, protecting downstream cities such as Wuhan, Nanjing, and Shanghai. Authorities credit it with reducing damage during major flood events, including the high-inflow summer of 2010. The project also revolutionized navigation. A 5-stage ship lock allows 10,000-ton vessels to reach the inland port of Chongqing, more than 2,400 kilometers from the sea, while a vertical ship lift completed in 2016 can raise 3,000-ton passenger vessels in about 40 minutes. This is far faster than the multi-step locks. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Did you like this video? If you did, please consider liking, dropping a comment, and hitting the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on our new uploads. Also, don't miss this video you see on your screen right now. It's truly unbelievable.